So a question comes with a speech of introduction is how do we structure that speech? And by structure, I mean how do we organize it? On what details do we give emphasis? And how much depth do we aim for? Well, what I want to show you is I'm going to show you a common organization. And in looking at this organization, what you can see is a clear beginning, middle, and ending. The beginning to a speech of introduction is often just a single sentence, but that sentence introduces the most important detail of the speech. That is the person's name. And so, I would like to introduce to you Katherine Kirsch. Now, one thing about when you do such a introduction, that first sentence, is you want to make sure that you emphasize that person's name. Perhaps give a slight pause just before you say it, and make sure that you say it loudly enough and clearly enough. So that's your beginning. The middle, then, are all those details that you have worked on, that you've accumulated, and then sorted through and decided which ones are the best. And it's an organization of those details, generally into categories. And when you take those details and break them into categories, you want to be thinking in categories of 2 categories, 3 categories, at most 4 categories, because people feel comfortable with lists that long. John Sweller, one of the most accomplished cognitive psychologists in the world, says that people are able to process 2, 3, or 4 details at one time. And so you want to use that insight in thinking about your categories. And so here what we've done is we've chosen 3 categories: education, career, and then personal. So what would you do in those particular categories? Well, for each of those categories, you probably, again, want to have 2, 3, or 4 details as represented here by these fish. And so you choose the ones that you think will give that person the most credibility, and as we've talked about before, will be the most memorable. Now, for those of you who are students, you're thinking, yeah, but on career, what am I going to say about someone? Well, there are a number of things that you can say. They may have had summer jobs. They may have done some volunteer work. There may have been skills such as learning a language or skills that they learned in scouting that you can bring out about them that are both credible and can also be memorable. And then you want to come up with some details that are personal. And with those details, you really have the opportunity to choose a detail that perhaps is unexpected, that will then be memorable for the audience. And then last is you want to have your ending. And in your ending, the most important thing that you want to do is repeat that person's name and then make a smooth transition to the next part of the meeting or the presentation. And so with that, I'm pleased to introduce to you Katherine Kirsch. Next conference presenter is Katherine Kirsch. Katherine is a PhD student studying in the Penn State Experimental and Computational Convection Laboratory. After receiving her Bachelor of Science and her Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering at Penn State, Katherine did a study abroad for 6 months at the University of Karlsruhe. Katherine holds a National Science Foundation Research Fellowship. As far as her industry experience, she has had internships at GE Transportation, Knowles Atomic Power Lab, and Pratt & Whitney. Perhaps from a career standpoint, what impresses me most about Katherine is her presentation ability. She has won 3 presentation awards at conferences. One of those awards was for Best Master's Presentation, and that occurred at the Pressure Vessels and Piping Conference in Prague. What is particularly interesting about that award is that Catherine was not a master's student when she won it. She was not a senior. She was technically not even a junior. She had just completed her sophomore year. Catherine is one of the original 12 engineering ambassadors as part of the Engineering Ambassador Network. On a personal note, she loves to travel. She is studying both Spanish and German, and she's an avid volleyball player. And so with that, I would like to present Catherine Kirsch.